please?
Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is the Surge Effect, and this podcast, well, it'll probably have an effect on you. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Surge Effect. This episode of the Surge Effect, we are going to be talking about Trump ripping up all negotiations with Canada and why. And we're just going to show you a few videos. This all happened within the last 12 hours or so. So I'm just going to show you a couple of videos like I always do, talk a little bit about each one as we go, and move forward. So here we go. First one is, of course, Doug Ford talking about his ad and the $75 million, of course. A lot of people don't realize maybe that this is what happened and how much he paid for it. $75 million. Listen to what Doug says about this ad.
I heard that the president heard our ad. I'm sure he wasn't too happy, but it's real because it was coming from the best president the country's ever seen, Ronald Reagan. So it is. It's very effective. Probably one of the best ads I've ever seen, and it's coming from Ronald Reagan's voice. And it's going to be focused on right across the country, but also in Republican-held areas, because what I feel, the Reagan Republicans are going to be fighting with a MAGA group, and let's hope Reagan Republicans win.
I'm not sure why he'd want people fighting against themselves, MAGA group or Reagan's group. I have no idea why. But this is one of the things that Trump had to say in regards to what transpired. He said the Ronald Reagan Foundation has just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was for $75 million. They only did this to interfere with the decision of the United States Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the United States. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So that was Donald's response to that. And here was his response on Truth Social. Canada cheated and got caught. They fraudulently took a big buy ad saying that Ronald Reagan did not like tariffs, when actually he loved tariffs for our country and its national security. Canada is trying to illegally influence the United States Supreme Court in one of the most important rulings in the history of Canada and of our country, and Canada has long cheated on tariffs, charging our farmers as much as 400%. Now they and other countries can't take advantage of the United States any longer. Thank you to Ronald Reagan's Foundation for exposing this fraud. And right beside that, former President Ronald Reagan's Foundation Thursday night is reviewing legal options for Canada's Ontario's provincial government, what they're going to do legally. Isn't that nice? So here's the actual ad that Doug Ford and his people put together.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
Wow. So there's about a minute, and that's $75 million of our tax dollars right there. Bam. All right, let's show another video. This here is Mario. Mario's going to be basically just saying what I just said. He just dropped this earlier.
Major breaking news. Donald Trump just ended all trade talks in Canada because of Doug Ford.
Donald Trump stated that the Ronald Reagan Foundation just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement, which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was for $75 million. They only did this to interfere with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I said it once, and I'll say it again. I told you this ad would do absolutely nothing. Never in a million years did I ever imagine that they did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the remarks. This is from the Ronald Reagan Foundation and Institute. They are pissed. Trump is pissed. And this isn't the only time Doug Ford has interfered with trade talks. This happened when he threatened to cut off electricity to U.S. citizens, which he quickly walked back when Trump said, if you do that, I'm going to double the tariffs on steel and aluminum. He tried a different manner by saying, I'm going to charge you 25% more for electricity going to the U.S. Again, he had to walk that back. Doug Ford is doing so much harm to trade talks. There's nothing that he's done that has been productive, effective, or even cost efficient.
And this is the premier, the leader of Ontario, pulling this shenanigans. It's kind of crazy, right? It's hard to believe in regards to that. I'm going to show you, or I'm going to explain to you about people always talking about the tariffs or the money, import and export of Canada with the United States, and say, oh, we don't need the states. Who needs states? We don't need the states. Well, I'm here to tell you that we, in fact, do need the states. Just because of the money that we trade back and forth. So the last 10 years, for instance, basically 80% of our trade is with the states, right? 75.9% of Canada's total merchandise exports and 62% of Canada's total merchandise imports is with the states. So 75.9%, almost 80%. You hear people say 80%, but that's pretty close, right? 75.9, basically 76%. All our trade is with the states. Give you an example. In 2024, $411 billion exports from Canada to the states. Our imports we purchased from them was $349.9 billion, okay? So it's almost, Trump saying that we're like 200 billion in the arrears or whatever it is. No, it's not even quite 100 billion really when you think of it. It's like more like 50, 60, about 70 billion as of last year. But people always say, oh, we don't need the states. Well, they're our biggest trading partner. And people, if you're to put all of EU together, all of China together, it still doesn't add up to our total that we have with the states. So you can get this information from Stats Canada, by the way. It's where I got them. You can get them the same place. Then people will say, oh, what about Mexico? Let's deal with Mexico. We do deal with Mexico to the tune of about 7%. Remember I said about U.S.? U.S. was about 76%. To be exact, it was 75.9. It's 7 with Mexico. So what we exported and imported with Mexico last year, we exported to Mexico $5.9 billion. What we imported from Mexico was $34.5 billion. So there's a $30 billion difference there. Gives you a bit of an idea, right? Just wanted to explain that before we moved on to our next video. And this video is from Anonymous. I don't know if you ever know, ever heard of Anonymous, know who they are. Guy Faulkner from the famous movie. Anyway, he wore a mask. So this is Anonymous. Here's what they had to say.
They thought they could get away with it. They thought no one would notice. The government of Canada, specifically Ontario, took Ronald Reagan's voice, his image, and his words, and twisted them. They spliced together pieces of his 1987 address, turned it into an anti-tariff message, and broadcast it internationally, without permission from the Reagan Foundation or the Reagan family. That's not free speech. That's propaganda. It was a deliberate attempt to manipulate public opinion, to undermine U.S. trade policy, and to interfere with a sitting president's decisions. In other words, a foreign-funded political operation aimed at the American people. But it backfired. The Reagan Foundation called it out as fraudulent. President Trump responded by terminating all trade negotiations with Canada, a decisive and necessary move. Because this isn't just a PR blunder, it's a moral and diplomatic breach. They didn't just take Reagan's words, they took his meaning and turned it inside out. The original 1987 speech they spliced was Reagan doing exactly what President Trump is doing now, using tariffs as leverage to counter unfair trade practices. Reagan had just imposed duties on Japan for violating trade agreements, a tactical move to force compliance, not start a trade war. But the Canadian ad stripped away that context, making it sound like Reagan opposed tariffs altogether. In reality, he was defending the very strategy they're attacking: leverage, fairness, and the defense of American industry. And that's what makes this act so despicable. It wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated deception. They knew what they were doing. They hoped Americans wouldn't check the source. But we did. And now the truth is out. Canada didn't just insult America. They betrayed trust. They weaponized history for political gain and got caught in the act. My friends, we are all anonymous. When your neighbor lies to your face, you don't renegotiate. You close the gate and keep it closed until they apologize and start speaking the truth.
We expect our trading partners to live up to their agreements. As I've often said, our commitment to free trade is also a commitment to fair trade. But you know, in imposing these tariffs, we were just trying to deal with a particular problem. So, with my meeting with Prime Minister Nakasone and the Venice Economic Summit coming up, it's terribly important not to restrict a president's options in such trade dealings with foreign governments. Until next week, thanks for listening and God bless you.
So there you go. So there was Anonymous, and here's the actual one of the actual clips from the 5-minute video of Ronald Reagan back in '87, discussing what was going on with Japan a little bit. But the clip that the Ford group showed you in their ad, and then the actual clip of Ronald Reagan speaking, what he actually said. Here we go.
Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports. Well, I've never forgotten those jobs, and on trade issues, by and large, we've done well.
Now, this is
Well,
what...
I've never forgotten those jobs, and on trade issues, by and large, we've done well. In certain select cases, like the Japanese semiconductors, we've taken steps to stop unfair practices against American products. But we've still maintained our basic long-term commitment to free trade and economic growth. So, with my meeting with Prime Minister Nakasone and the Venice Economic Summit coming up, it's terribly important not to restrict a president's options in such trade dealings with foreign governments. Unfortunately, some in the Congress are trying to do exactly that. I'll keep you informed on this dangerous legislation because it's just another form of protectionism, and I may need your help to stop it. Remember, America's jobs and growth are at stake. Till next week, thanks for listening, and God bless you.
There you go. So that's what he actually said that was missing from the ad. So you want to know what our Prime Minister had to say? This is what he said.
Look, for months we have stressed the importance of distinguishing things we can control and things we can't control. We can't control the trade policy of the United States. We recognize that that policy has fundamentally changed from the policy in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s. And it's a situation where the United States has tariffs against every one of their trading partners to different degrees. And it's in that context that our officials, my colleagues, have been working with their American colleagues on detailed, constructive negotiations, discussions on specific transactions, specific sectors, steel, aluminum, and energy. And a lot of progress has been made. And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions, because it will be for the benefit of workers in the United States, workers in Canada, and families in both of our countries. Now, what we can control, absolutely, is how we build here at home. That's the focus of Budget 2025, generational investment here in Canada. And what we can also control, or at least heavily influence, is developing new partnerships and opportunities, including with the economic giants of Asia, which is the focus.
Now, all that went on for a couple of minutes, almost 2 minutes he spoke. And in the 2 minutes that he spoke, did he really say anything? Did he really come up with anything? Any solutions to any issues, any problems of the states not wanting to negotiate with us? It's kind of bizarre the way he puts his words out, but he doesn't really explain anything to anyone. It's kind of confusing. But it's real simple. You as a household owner have X number of dollars coming in for the work that you do. You have X number of dollars going out because of bills and overhead. Canada is the same. If we have no money coming in, we have a lot of money going out. Sooner or later, it's going to be like the budget officer said at one of the committees the other day here in Canada. We're going to drive off a cliff because we have no money coming in and too much money going out. If that happened in your household, they'd foreclose on your house and you'd be homeless because you don't have any money to pay any of your bills because you have no money coming in. So he can say whatever he wants, all these big, long, fancy words and confuse people, but that's it in a nutshell. And the more money he spends, the more tax dollars he has to increase for us because we have to pay the interest of the money that he just printed. It's that simple. Anyway, that's it for today's podcast, everyone. I just wanted to say thanks again for subscribing, liking, and sharing. It takes a couple of clicks, especially on social media these days, just to go click, click. I want to share that little clip. I also take little shorts from my main video, and I post those as well. Feel free to share and like them as well. It helps with the algorithm with YouTube. It's a finicky thing, YouTube. Anyway, until next time, everyone, have yourself a great day. Cheers to you all.